Hello, my name is Jillian Nolan, and I'm a Senior Program Associate at PCORI. Today, we're going to answer some questions that we received from researchers about the PCORI peer review process. I'm joined by Andrea Brandow, Senior Program Officer at PCORI, Tim Carey, Co-Scientific Director and Associate Editor for PCORI Peer Review, and Ellen Bryan and Bronwyn Medeo from the Author Services team. Thanks everybody for joining us today. First, let's talk about what is the purpose of the final research report. Andrea, can you start us off on that?
Sure. So the final research report is similar to a journal article, but it's longer and more detailed. And the purpose is to provide a narrative of all the research activities that have been completed as part of the PCORI project, including how patients and stakeholders have been involved and contributed to the study, thorough descriptions of the study aims, the outcomes, and the methods and the results. One other note too is that investigators should include and note any other study protocol changes that have been made along the way. This structure of the report is really helpful to readers because everything is included in one place, and it also provides enough detail that the study findings can be useful to patients and researchers and clinical decision makers.
Great, thank you. Tim, how is the final research report different from other funders' final reports?
It's quite a bit different. It's not just longer, it's also more comprehensive in that it involves all of your study methods over all of your aims, including the methods you use for stakeholder engagement, all of the results, and then discussion and conclusions and implications of your research findings for future research. All of the research findings are publicly posted, whether they're positive or whether they're negative, and all of the research findings, regardless of the results, do go through the same peer review process.
And who are the editors and reviewers?
Similar to other articles and research reports, all PCORI DFRRs are reviewed by usually two subject matter experts who are researchers and/or clinicians with expertise in the subject matter of your project. Also, every research report is reviewed by a patient or stakeholder who does have some training, and they are very helpful. Just as patients and stakeholders review PCORI applications, they also review the final reports. And they're particularly interested in the methods of patient engagement that you used. If there are quantitative results, and there usually are, we have staff statisticians who review the reports, especially looking at adherence to the PCORI methodology standards. Qualitative results are also usually reviewed by a qualitative expert that we work with. The associate editors also review the report, and they may have additional comments as well. The associate editors are more senior investigators. They've all had experience with patient-centered outcome research. They're both PhDs, also clinicians, and they have a diverse range of expertise. Some of them are quite quantitative in their approach. Others focus on qualitative work. And we also talk with each other a lot and really enjoy the process of learning about PCORI's great findings.
Thanks, Tim. So, Ellen and Bronwyn, investigators often want to know, when should they start working on their report?
So the overall consensus is clear, as early as possible. Some investigators start working or start preparing for peer review at the beginning of the project. They should just be sure to note any changes they've made and compile those into protocols and planning documents.
And we can share templates. If authors reach out to us early, they can use these templates to keep notes on certain sections along the way. And that way, at the beginning of the submission process, they'll have most of their DFRR sections ready.
What are the ways that they can incorporate the documents that they already have, that the investigators already have, into their final report? So I'm talking about things like the research plan, the protocol, progress reports, and journal publications.
Yes, authors should use existing documents whenever possible in their DFRR. For instance, they can use their study protocol and include it as an appendix and refer to it throughout the methods section. And then that way they don't have to rewrite information that they've included already in the study protocol.
Yeah, they can also use information from journal articles they've already published. They just need to make sure to contact the publisher for permission or to get a copyright waiver.
and they should make sure to cite the article. If they reach out to us early, we can provide a couple of examples.
Great, thank you both. So Andrea, one question that we get asked all the time by investigators is how much time and money should they devote within their budget to peer review?
It's a great question, and we do get asked this often. So the peer review budget is for writing the draft final research report and for making revisions in response to peer review comments received. The peer review budget consists of costs for personnel to complete these activities. So typically the PI, the co-PI, one or two research or project coordinators to help pull everything together, as well as the statistician to review and respond to any comments or questions that have been received regarding the methods or analyses. Most of the peer review activities occur once the research project and the data analyses have been completed. And during the peer review process, there are typically 1 to 2 revision requests that do require considerable time and effort. The time frame from the submission of the draft final research report to the acceptance of the final research report is about 6 to 9 months. And one item I want to note here is that although the official peer review period does not start until the research project activities have been completed, researchers can start writing the majority of the report before this time, including the background section, patient and stakeholder engagement section, and the methods. And this is because the data analyses don't have to be completed for these.
Ellen and Bronwyn, what resources are there available to help investigators prepare for their final report?
So there's a lot of information on the overall process on PCORI's website under peer review.
And we have a website with all of the author resources available. We have the author instructions to awardee, templates, checklists, submission guide, and revision resources too.
And we'll also meet with author groups about 4 months ahead of time or earlier if requested to go over the submission process, answer any questions. And we try to join their pre-planned meetings whenever possible, just to avoid the burden of extra meetings in their calendars.
Yeah, and we're here to answer the phone or email at any time. We've tried to create these easy-to-use, intuitive resources, but we really encourage authors to reach out before, shuffling through too many things.
Andrea, another thing that investigators often want to know is how does the final research report affect their ability to publish in journals?
So the final research report will be posted on PCORI's website, but it should not interfere with investigators' ability to publish in scientific journals. And there are 2 reasons for this. First, PCORI will hold off on the posting of the final research report for up to 12 months. And second, because we're not running a journal, the goal for the final research report is very different from that of journal peer review. So top journals don't see this as a prior publication as defined by the International Committee for Medical Journal Editors.
And Tim, what are peer reviewers and editors looking for in the report?
They're looking for results clearly presented, and we're also looking for results that discuss how those results apply to patients, stakeholders, caregivers, and clinicians. Results that adhere to the PCORI methodology standards. All of our investigators who are funded by PCORI, they're familiar with those methodology standards because they got funded by PCORI, and they should demonstrate in their reporting those standards as well, around all of the many issues that range from missing data to discussions about causality to discussions of heterogeneity of treatment effect, just to name 3. The conclusion should be appropriately tempered and really follow the data and not either over or under exaggerate the results. In addition, the author should describe changes that they made along the way, all research changes along the way. In the past 5 years, we've had research that has had to change a lot along the way with the pandemic and all. And we think that's appropriate and often necessary, but tell us how the research changed, why it changed, those methods changed, and how it may have affected the results that you found.
So I have a question for the group. Investigators often ask us what are ways they can proactively improve their chances for an easier or smoother peer review process, and what would you tell them?
Authors should start early and ask questions. If authors can use our templates and our instructions to awardee as they're writing their report, then they'll have most of their DFRR written at the beginning of the submission process. And there's less of a likelihood that we'll have to send it back at the initial stages of the peer review process.
Yeah, as Bronwyn was saying, we have a lot of resources we've created for authors and they should take advantage of those. They can also read through examples of other final research reports on PCORI's website, and there's over 300 of them. And if they can't find the right one, feel free to email us and we'll put you in the right direction.
Clearly describe the results and how the research changed over time. Please respond to all of the reviewer comments from both patient stakeholders, subject matter expert reviewers, and the associate editor. We do provide what we call a synthesis letter to authors about particular points of emphasis in their revisions. If you disagree with a comment or there may be good reason to not change text, just tell us why, but please be responsive to that. And if you have questions, we're happy to chat about it. It is the author's report, and we recognize all the hard work that goes into it. We're happy to set up conference calls. The reviewers' identities are confidential, but the associate editors are not. You'll know who we are, and we're happy to talk to you.
And so program officers and program associates, we will conduct a pre-review of the submitted draft final research report for completeness to make sure that the report provides an accurate and complete account of all the research activities. And during this review, we're really looking for a number of things, but just for some examples, we'll be looking to make sure that the study aims are all fully described, that the primary and secondary outcomes are listed separately and accurately labeled, and that the report includes study protocol changes. We recommend that investigators double check that the draft final research report includes everything before they submit to avoid the need to have a revision at this stage.
Thanks, everybody. And so last question, Bronwyn, Ellen, Tim, who should investigators contact if they have questions about PCORI peer review?
Well, they can reach out to their program officer or program associate.
They can also contact author services at review@originreview.com. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find someone who does.
Same answer, contact author services at review@origin.com, and they will find out who the associate editor is for that particular project, and we have staff who can set up the call.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us to answer these questions. We hope this Q&A session is helpful for you and your research team. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions about your specific project.